So pia matter does not have any space between the pia matter and the cerebral cortex or cerebral hemisphere. So we have already talked that pia matter is firmly attached upon the cerebrum. Hello Bandhugan, Namaskar and welcome back to my YouTube channel Sahil Educations, and today we'll be studying about the meninges. So what are meninges first? So we must see or we must know that meninges is a plural form of the layers which are present around your brain. That means your cerebral hemisphere as well as your spinal cord is covered by some layers. The layers must be fibrous, the layers must be vascular, or layers must be epithelial, whatever it is. But the layers are there present to protect your spinal cord as well as your brain from external injury. That means when you shake your head like this, your cerebral hemisphere is going to get in touch with the cranium, as your cerebral hemisphere as well as your brain is present inside the cranium, and when your cerebral hemisphere touches your cranium, it will provide you a sensation of pain or something else, or it can hamper or it can damage your cerebral hemisphere as well. So protect your brain. So to protect your brain from the cerebral to protect your brain from the external injury, there are the meninges, the layers, the protective layers which are present around the cerebral hemisphere as well as around the spinal cord. So today we'll be talking about the meninges, what are the layers, what kind of things which are going to make these layers. So let's see. First we must know that meninges is a plural form and the singular form of meninges is meninx. Meninx is the singular form of or singular name of meninges. So when we talk about the fishes, if we talk about the fishes, they have only one protective layer around their brain or spinal cord. The layer is pia mater. The layer is pia mater. In case of amphibian, birds and reptiles, there are two layers. One is the pia mater and another one is the Dura arachnoid matter. And if we talk about the vertebrates, there are three protective layers. The layers are pia mater, arachnoid matter, and Dura matter. So these are the meninx layers, collectively called as meninges. Here and this one is meninx, as the single layer pia mater is present. Now what are the structures, how these matters or how these layers are arranged around your spinal cord as well as around your brain, we have to see through this lecture video or through this video lecture. So let's see. Suppose this is your brain, the cerebral hemisphere covered by protective layer. The protective layers are meninges and then going down towards the spinal cord, also protecting your spinal cord. Now just see that your cerebral hemisphere has some sulci and gyri. sulci and gyri. So let's magnify this part like this. If you magnify this portion, then you can see some ingrowth and some outgrowth. So these ingrowth, the inward depressions, are called as sulci. Singularly, sulcus. And then the outward growth or outward impression is called as gyrus, and in plural it is gyri. Now talk about the pia matter, arachnoid matter and dura matter present around this cerebral hemisphere. Let's see. The cerebral hemisphere is covered first initially by pia matter. This pia matter is made up of some epithelial cells or epithelial tissue. And this epithelial tissue is going to fill this sulci region. Okay, and this epithelial tissue is firmly attached with the cerebral hemisphere, making a protective covering around your cerebral hemisphere. The first protective covering around the cerebral hemisphere. And in case of this pia matter, this one is vascularized as well. Some small blood vessels may be present or are present in this region. After this pia matter, the arachnoid matter is present. The term arachnoid comes from arachnid. Arachnid is a term which says that a web-like structure, a network-like structure, these kind of structures can be called as arachnid. And from that from that structure, this arachnoid word came, that the protective layer above this pia matter is a network-like structure, is a web-like structure. That means, just suppose that a football, first primarily is being covered by a muslin cloth or a thin cloth, you can say. After this thin cloth, you are going to cover it up by the mosquito net, what you use in your bedroom. So mosquito net have some pores in between the structure. So the arachnoid matter is basically present above this pia matter, and this arachnoid matter has some pores, or you can call it as a web-like structure, a network-like structure, basically made up of collagen fibers. So arachnoid matter is fibrous as well as made up of collagen. Okay, so this arachnoid matter, if you cut, then you can see the structures, arachnoid matter, and there are some other structures in the arachnoid matter. The outgrowth in the arachnoid matter, these outgrowths can be called as villi of the arachnoid matter. So why these villi are present in the brain? We'll be talking about this later. So see, this arachnoid matter, above this arachnoid matter, you can find the dura matter. The dura matter. And the villi of this arachnoid matter is going to embed upon the dura matter like this. Embed upon the dura matter like this, and there are some other structures in the dura matter which is present, called as sinus or sinus. This structure is sinus. So basically this is a junction, this is a connection between the arachnoid matter and dura matter, in which the cerebrospinal fluid flows from this subarachnoid space to the dura matter, or to the blood vessels which are present in this dura matter. And the blood vessels are going to carry the cerebrospinal fluid, or is going to carry the elements present in the cerebrospinal fluid. So that's it. So the first layer is pia matter, second layer is arachnoid matter, and the third layer is dura matter. This is the sequence how meninges are present around your cerebral hemisphere. And the villi is a part of, villi is a structure of the arachnoid matter, and sinuses or sinuses are the structure present in the dura matter, and sinuses and villi are going to be a junction, going to act like a junction to flow, to get the flow of cerebrospinal fluid to the blood vessels, and these blood vessels actually are veins, are going into the heart. Okay. Now talking about this dura matter is also fibrous is in nature, and this dura matter contains some larger blood vessels as well. After this dura matter, you can find the cranium itself, the bone, which is the primary covering, which is the primary hard covering of your brain, so that your brain do not get any injury, do not get any pressure, any kind of effect from the external environment. Now talking about the spaces between this arachnoid and dura matter, whatever, pia matter, whatever. So pia matter does not have any space between the pia matter and the cerebral cortex or cerebral hemisphere. So we have already talked that pia matter is firmly attached upon the cerebrum. So there is no space in between the pia matter and cerebral cortex. So just above the pia matter and below the arachnoid matter, you can find a space. This space is called as subarachnoid space. This space is called as subarachnoid space. This subarachnoid space actually contains your cerebrospinal fluid. That fluid is going to make an environment for the brain to float along, to float in between. Your brain is basically floating in between the cerebrospinal fluid, which is present in the subarachnoid space, to get some extra protection, or to get the nutrients whichever is required for the development and maturity, or for the survival of the cerebral cortex or the neurons present in your brain. Now above this arachnoid matter, there is another space which is called as subdural space. Basically, the sub term comes for the presence below this layer. Actually, this is the dura matter. When the space is present below this dura matter, it can be called as subdural space, and this one is the subarachnoid space, as this space is present beneath the arachnoid matter. So this subdural space is a space which is present between the arachnoid matter and dura matter. Now talking about the epidural space. In this case, in this image, you can see a little space between the cranium and the dura matter, but this is not right. Actually, in case of brain, the epidural space is not present. This one is the epidural space, as the space is present above the dura matter. If any patient or if any person is with some epidural space, that means there is some pathological condition. That means there are something which is not natural. When you talk about the spinal cord, you can find the epidural space, the space between the vertebral column and the dura matter, which is present around the spinal cord. That's all for this class. Thank you very much. See you in the next video.